Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our 2013 NFL Draft Special. We're taking a look at the Seattle Seahawks, and we're going to hand out draft grades. So we're going to look at every last selection the Seahawks made this past April, as well as some undrafted free agents that you want to keep an eye on. The Seahawks made a big splash last season with an outstanding draft. This year, they wanted to come in and build depth along that defensive line and that offensive line. And they were able to accomplish that looking at some of these draft selections, some guys that were college standouts and should perform well at the next level. And I like the fact that they tapped the small colleges for some of their top talent. You look in round 7, Jared Smith out of New Hampshire was a guy that was very productive throughout his career for the Wildcats and also had a solid week of practice and a game at the Texas versus the Nation game. And Michael Bowie of Northeast Oklahoma State was a very productive and dominant O-lineman throughout the course of his career. And Ty Powell out of Harding is a guy we're going to talk about in just a second. Now, what I like most about the Seahawks draft, continuing to add weapons for Russell Wilson with wide receiver Chris Harper out of Kansas State. He's a physical type of receiver, reminds me a lot of Anquan Bolden and what he brings to the table. And he's a former quarterback, so you know he's continuing to learn the little nuances of playing the position, so you can say his best football is ahead of him. And Thurl Simon out of LSU, he fits the mold of what they like in their corners out there in Seattle. Tall guy, 6'2", about 200 pounds, ball skills, and also has the ability to come up and make plays closer to the line of scrimmage. So he's a solid tackler, but I really like his potential as a matchup corner with that height and those ball skills. And the Seahawks got a steal in round 5 with Jesse Williams, the defensive tackle out of Alabama. Here's a guy that can play 3 positions on that defensive line. He can line up as a nose, as a 1, and also as a 5 technique in that defense and provide interior pass rush, and also does a great job versus the run. I gave him a first-round grade. To get him in round 5 is definitely a huge pickup for the Seahawks defense. Also, keep an eye on Ty Powell out of Harding. This was a guy that was a defensive end in college, made the move to linebacker, may end up in the middle, but I think he can play either outside backer on the strong side or the weak side, so he does give you that versatility, and that's something that they need on that defense, especially at the linebacker position. Now, what I didn't like about the Seahawks draft, I didn't understand the need to go for 2 running backs in this year's class. Second round was a little bit too high to take Christian Michael, especially when last year you drafted a guy in Robert Turbin who did a fine job as a rookie, and you still have a young back in his prime in Marshawn Lynch. Same later on in the draft, you go with Spencer Ware. I felt as though they could have addressed 2 other needs outside of running back, let alone 2 running backs in this year's draft. An undrafted free agent that could surprise and make the Seahawks roster, I'll look at guard Alvin Bailey out of Arkansas. I gave this guy a 3rd-round grade. For him to go undrafted was a bit of a shock for me. So you look at this offensive line, there's some opportunities for him to get some playing time as a rookie, as a rotational guy, can play left or right guard. So keep an eye on Alvin Bailey out of Arkansas. I'm giving the Seahawks a C+ for their draft. When I look at some of the selections, I still have to scratch my head. I didn't understand the 2 running back selection. I also didn't understand Jordan Hill going that early in round 3. So there were some head scratchers, but when you look at this draft class as a whole, they did come away with some impact guys. Again, Jesse Williams was a steal. I also like Thurl Simon, and you can make a case for the lower end guys like Ty Powell out of Harding. That was a great pickup by the Seahawks. So overall, this was a solid class, not like last year, but still in all, they will have some people that will make their roster and contribute to their long-term success. And I want to give a huge shout out to Seahawk fan forums for always showing football game plan support.